we're going to be working on, here's what I'm working on. First of all, I have half a face. Look at that. Let me make some adjustments first. Let's do this better. A little. So I'm working on, I have a question for you. Let me reach it here. I'm working on a quilting tutorial. So I'm sewing up the sample because I'm going to be doing this video soon on how to make this quilt. And I'm just going to show you a little bit. So this is the quilt. Blue, it's green, it's white, it has squares, it has rectangles. Help me with a name for this quilt. I'm terrible at this. What do you think would be a clever name for something like this, or memorable, or just give me your ideas. Put them down in the messages. If you're watching this now live, a little bit later, pop them down into the messages if you can. I haven't figured out how to work chat yet. I'm gonna do that one of these days. So for now, please leave me messages when you're watching it not live. So that's what I'm working on right now to finish the sample, and I'm almost done with that. And then we're gonna move on to something else. So how's everybody doing tonight? I hope you are staying cool. Some parts of the country, including mine, are still very, very intensely hot. It's still like 88 degrees here, and it's in the evening, early evening, but still, we did not get a cool off yet. I'm really hoping soon that we do, because it's sundresses until then, because everything makes me hot. So I think I'm actually done with this part of the sample, and that's going to be very fun to make a video on that probably later this week. And I'm going to switch now to another thing I'm working on. We're just going to chat. We're just going to talk about a few things. I'm going to keep working on quilts. You keep working on what you're working on, or just relax. And we're going to just play by ear on what we want to talk about today. All right, hang on a second here. That's not what I'm looking for. Hang on, sorry. I need a new name for my, okay. So I have coming up what I've been kind of working on now this week, and now for the next couple of weeks is one of the things I'm working on is I have, let me show you. This is a quilt that I big stitched. Let me show you. Pretty panel, and it's nicely big stitched. I love, love, love big stitch. Let's see if I can get you real close so you can see how big a stitches we're talking. Seeing some of that. So I love big stitch. This is, let's look at it here. This is the kind of quilting where you're using embroidery floss or pearl cotton, depending on what you want to use for quilting, whatever you can pull through the layers, and you quilt really big. It's very simple. There's no tricks to it. It's very forgiving, and I do a lot of it because it's expensive. I love doing handwork. Now, that's not the case for everybody, but if you do like handwork, this is a great way to learn about quilting and also to finish your quilts inexpensively, finish them yourself. And then I remember when big stitching, when long arms came along. Who knew that we all would be sending our stuff out to long? It did change the industry because it meant we could make more quilts. And so that's why it got real popular. But it's never been inexpensive to do. And so I love hand quilting. And all you need for this type of quilting is a needle with a very sharp, just a sharp point, and a needle that has a big eye. You put some thread in there and you just start. Straight lines is a great way to start. So this baby quilt is perfect for the straight lines because the quilt has enough of its own, pretty cute images on it. Hang on a second. Let me make sure I'm cutting this right. I'm getting the excess off the edge here. That out of the way. It's since it's got its own motifs, it's got the lions and all the pretty animals on it. I don't need to do anything fancy with the actual quilting, because anything that I did that was complex would probably just get now the you see the different texture you get, and it's really showing up because we have this big light here, and we have good lighting today. But in certain circumstances like this, you really get this extra texture, and it's just a different feel. As you've seen, quilts that are traditionally hand quilted compared to quilts that are done with long arm, the textures look very different. And so I just like going back to this nice soft, it feels like your grandma's quilts used to feel. It feels very pliable, very easy and soft, and which is great for a child's blanket, child's quilt. Um, so that it's fun to give these, because people do really, you can drag it around. Just a very cute panel, but just a panel. And you can see that I added some extra blocks here around the border. Those I added myself, just to give it a little more interest, make it a little bit bigger, and I really like how that turned out. I wasn't sure about doing these colors, but their colors are in, so I thought, let's pull them out. And I do love how they jump out at you for this nice cheerful quilt. But like I said, I've gotten to where I'll use mostly panels for baby quilts, because they can't sleep under them anymore. Those days are gone when we used to be able to cover our babies up. We also used to be able to give them pillows, but of course they found out that used to let them sleep on their tummies. All these things have changed over the years because they found out that there were more instances of SIDS. Who wants that? So it means that our children don't sleep under quilts anymore. They sleep in sleepers that are heavy enough, just like a quilt would be. And so when I give a quilt now, it's more a playmat, which is fine too. So this will be the thing that as they do get older and they can spend a little time on the floor for time, these types of quilts are great, because you can get them dirty, you can walk on them. They're very durable. You're not going to ruin this in any way. It's not a family heirloom. It might be the blanket they like to carry around while they're a toddler. That would be great. It might just be the one you grab when you're taking the baby in the car and it's cold. Not that we can imagine that today, because it's 88 degrees outside and humid here. And that's what kills you. So these have just, for me, become really the best way to do a baby quilt and make it be really practical. And so that's what I'm working on. I'm going to be putting the binding on it. I do a regular binding where I sew it on the front and I hand stitch it to the back when I'm watching a movie later. So I will be doing that. Okay. I'm going to set this aside for a minute. And then, of course, I have scraps left over. Well, I'm not sure why, but I'm looking back. Oh, there was a little jump there. So maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. So now I have scraps left over. These are pretty small, so I'm going to let those go. I'm not going to keep those these are nice scraps. So off they go to the scrap box, which they'll be started into my scrap system. Everybody should have a scrap system. And it's taken me a while, but I do love the idea, and I am finally getting there, where scraps that come into this is probably still too swell. That's not too small. I probably will keep some of this, because I can then piece together a few more to make like a table runner or something like that. So we'll see. We're going to hang on to that one. And I have a big drawer. I throw all those in. But when the scraps go in, I do cut mine in 2 different ways right away. I will cut them into 2.5-inch strips and 1-inch strips right now. And so that's what I use for my scrap quilts. And there's plenty of things you can do with scrap quilts that size. And then my screen has frozen. I'm just going to keep talking. We'll see what happens. The fact that now we have 3 people instead of 4 means maybe it's not working. That's okay. So once it goes into my scrap, 2.5 inches and 1 inch, anything smaller goes into a little basket that I have. And when these different baskets, when they fill up, it's time for me to make a scrap quilt. And that's how the blue and green one, it was time to do that. So I'm also using scraps for my bias. I had this, it was a fat quarter that I've had for quite a while, but it's going to be perfect because I'm going to do, it's all different colors around the outside. You never know. I mean, this is why we have stashes, because you never know what perfect time is going to be for this particular. It was a layer cake that some of that I only needed a few pieces of, but some of them had gone for other ideas. So I'm going to make sure I cut this end off at 45 degrees so that I can, there we go, so that I can, it is cut on the bias, so I can piece those together. Let's see, that side and this is having its big show in August. I'm close to Grand Rapids, so in Michigan. And that's the one large show that I do sell products at. And if you might be familiar, but my what would you call it? My specialty of my gadgets. Try lots of tools and lots of gadgets, and then I get to see which ones are the best, and the ones that are the best, those are the ones I sell. And I do that because I want to make sure that if I'm selling something, that I know it's good. And that was the whole like thought when I started my business, is what am I going to focus on? And I wanted to, I was younger and I didn't know anything about quilting yet, not much. And, paper stencils for quilting paper. We didn't quite have the rotary cutters yet. They were, but there would be walls of notions and things, as there are today. You go into a shop, you look at the wall, and you're thinking, this all looks interesting, but I'm really not sure what they all do. And then if I can figure out what they do, I'm not sure that I'm going to like it, or that it's going to be good, or that I'm going to actually use it. And so what you go to the quilt shops for is if someone will show you what it is these products do and tell you why you might want to use them, then you're far more likely to buy them and feel good about it, because we all want to get the best use of our dollars for our hobby. And so best part of my job is I can buy all the gadgets I can find. I'm always looking for new ones. And every year I have a new set of gadgets and tools and notions that I will feature. And I'll feature that at the retreats that I host. I'll feature them at the shows that I vendor, and also here on the YouTube channel, showing you what they are and how they work and why I love them. And so to make it onto my list, there are requirements, and the requirements are that it has to be something that does what it says it's going to do. Pretty big. The next thing is it has to be something that you will, that I reach for and I actually use. Because there are some tools that I don't, that I have, but it tends to be something like, well, that particular way of doing binding or this or that, I don't really reach for that tool. I don't seem to need it really. And we never really know until we buy something if we're going to use it a lot or not. So that's the second criteria to go onto my list is that you have the products have to be something that I will use. And I'm for those of you who just came on, I'm talking about how it is I choose the products that I sell on my website, on my YouTube channel, at the quilt shows, at my retreats. And so the third criteria is that if a product has a second way, so the first two criteria that works well and I actually use it, that's okay on its own. That's enough to get something list. But what makes it even better is if there's another way to use that product that is unexpected, that is not just way to use it. And so, for instance, I had it's a needle puller. It's a needle puller that, oh God, did I run out of, no, my bobbin ran out. No, not too bad. Just a few, just a little. Let's go back up. um, if I, it was a needle puller meant for when you're hand sewing, you can clip this on and help you tug that needle through that might be stuck. It's great for that. It really is. The other thing that I found out, because a quilt told me how she was using it and her friends, they were also using it to hold onto a machine needle when you're going to put it into your sewing machine, and you're going to tighten it, and then you have to be able to place it up into the machine in the right spot, and that's tricky. That is a little tricky. So unfortunately then, as my vision became not so great, that makes it even harder. So this is something that's a second use of that tool that I absolutely love. And so we that made the list, and it's been great because not everybody is a hand sewer, but I get to introduce this. Nope, need a bobbin. I get to introduce this to people because not everyone's a hand sewer, but you'll probably use this for if you for your sewing machine, because a lot of us sew with machines, right? I'm going to wind my bobbin. It's going to be a little noisy for a minute. And so the AQS show is coming to Michigan in August. I've got some time to get together the things that I'm going to take. And so I'm going to be taking new products, but I'm also going to be taking some of my products that have been the best sellers. Let's see if I can make that faster because it takes forever. There's some things that I can sell year after year after year, and I swear I think everybody's got them now. They still, there's new people coming to quilting all the time. So I'll have some of my best sellers that I can just about guarantee people, if you buy this, you're going to love it, and you're going to, I always have people, when you see me again, tell me what you thought of that product, because that's what I really want to know. And time again, they come back and tell me that, yep, they loved that product just as much as I did. And sometimes they tell me different ways they use stuff. And so that I can find out, and then I can pass that along to the next person that I'm talking to. It's a great system. And I do love it. I like to know that what I'm selling you is really good stuff. Okay, so back to tonight. I'm working on different projects. Right now I'm working to get a binding onto a baby quilt. So I'm just sewing the binding that I cut on the bias, and it's all different colors, which is fabulous. I've got a lot of yellow, we got green, I've got some blue and orange, so it's going to be, we're going to go Now let's go orange next to the yellow. That makes sense on the color wheel. Um, and so the difficulty with the large shows is how do you get? I only register for a small booth, which is 10 by 10. Most people who do the large shows, they are they are registering for much larger, so they'll do a double booth. Um, and some of them sewing machines companies, they do like a triple booth. For me, I only have myself and usually one helper, who's usually my mom, and that's all that really fits in the booth. And so we keep two keeps busy enough. We are able to, keep customers moving when at those times when it's really busy all of a sudden. Trying to keep things, and that can be tricky. So that you have to kind of figure that all into what size booth you want. But the biggest restriction is I got to be able to fill the booth with enough product for the show. And the only way for a small show, I can do that in just my what do you call it? My brain is not thinking right. It's a Honda um, CRV, not a truck, not a car in between. SUV. There it is, small SUV. And for a small show, for a guild show, I can fit as much as I need there, and that's good. For this show, I need much more than that. And so I've toyed with the idea of doing like a trailer, and I have a trailer that I use for a couple other things. I kind of don't want to use the trailer here because it's downtown. I'm not the best at backing it, so there's a lot that can happen that goes into the decision. What I did discover though is if I come the day that we get to set up, I will come down with two loads. I'll come down twice because I'm not that far away. So I can come morning, I can bring a load and set up, and then I go back and I get a second load. And then every day of the show, I need to then add another load. And that's how I'm able to do it. But it's only because I live in the area that I'm able to do this show. So for me, that's why I don't do the bigger shows. It's just a lot of logistics, and if it's most of the time it's just me doing the shows, so I need to keep it simple. But that's just a little trick that I figured out that works really well, so that local vendors can do that. Okay, so now I have my binding all biased, all pretty colors, and into the blue. And I'm gonna now it's 2.5 inches. I'm going to now fold it in half, and I'm going to press it, all of it in half. So I already know the products because what I do for the AQS show is I start this will be the end of my year basically. So since I have new products every year, this is the last show of the products. And I sometimes will have really good prices on things because it's time to get them out of the way. If I bought too many, time to get them out because I need to have the space for the new stuff coming in. So I like to be able to do that. And then it's just fun when quilters see some things that they didn't pick up before that they see a good price. So that's always fun. Fun for them and fun for me to be able to. It works win-win. That's always say that win-win. So that's what I'm working on for as far as my next event goes. And I did just get my booth number, which that's always a big deal. What booth are you in? Because of where are you on the floor? I like to be as close to that front door as I can. Although in these shows, it doesn't matter as much because all of us walk around the show first. So you could kind of make a list in your head, a mental note, or actually make a list. What do I want to buy? And then we'll see what can I actually go home with. So that's always fun in the morning. Everybody's just looking. It's all very kind of quiet that first day when they're coming in. And then in the afternoon. People will come back. So that's why the booth number doesn't really matter that much where you're at on these big shows, because quilters are going to see everything. I mean, we come specifically for this purpose, to see everything, to see what's new, to see what we can add to our stash or to our studio as far as equipment and tools. And so got my booth number, and I'm kind of in the middle-ish area. I'm going to be by where the quilts are judged. The winners are in the center of the room here in this show, and then my booth will be very close to that. So I'll be able to see all the people as they're. Oh, I forgot this whole section. Let's see if I have enough already. I might not need it. Yeah, I probably won't. So as they're looking at the quilts, I can see they can see me and I can see them. So it's a nice area that kind of opens up and gives everybody some space to breathe. Oh, I do need those extra. Okay, that means I got to keep going to the end here. Let's find my end. Since I left off with blue, I'll go with more blue. Let me take a look for a second. Okay. So, how's everybody surviving the heat? My weather app is showing me that Florida is actually not quite as hot as Michigan right now. That never happens. So yeah, it can be a little bit of an emergency for some people. I went to an appointment this morning, and the dentist's office, one of their air conditioning units was down, and so the poor staff were doing as much as they could to keep the room as cool as possible. So everybody's trading. It's kind of cute. Everybody starts trading their methods of how they keep their houses cool. I have to make a decision. So I've got blue, and I got to think about the color wheel here, because I've got yellow. This is a greenish, orange, and yellow. Which ones should go next? So let's see. Blue, Roy G. Biv, and after B, I indigo violet. Next section, so red, orange. I think orange is going to be the next. It's not real close on the color wheel, but it's fine. And then we'll do these. Okay. Try to give it some coordination there, so it's not. Contrast is good too. So there's the method of course, closing all your windows and all your blinds in the morning, after you've cooled the house at night. And then one lady knew the time of day, and this is actually about trying not to run her bill up. The time of day to turn off, that's the most expensive for running electrical things, which was, I think, between 2 and 5 afternoon. And so she at her house turns hers off during those hours and gets it real cool beforehand. So I just thought funny that everybody's got different strategies. And usually we don't have to talk about those here, but we do right now because it's hot. And that's okay, because we don't like it really cold either. That's how it goes. So summer is upon us, and I've been working really hard to slow my pace a little bit so that I have time to enjoy summer. Since I can pretty much set my own schedule, so it's my own fault if I don't take enough time for summer fun things. So I'm working on that. It's not always an easy thing to do. We're used to just, getting things done, producing, even in quilting, we're making, and we love it. So my summer I'm trying to get some moderation is one of my goals this summer. And so far I'm doing pretty well. Busy, June was busy, out of the way. Now we're heading to July and I get some slowdown time, which of course then makes me think immediately, oh, I get more time to sew. But I do have to remember that I have a family who would like to do fun things that has nothing to do with my sewing. And of course I want to spend time with my family too. So I'll get some hand sewing out. So if we go places, I can do some hand sewing. Oh, it becomes a how can I spend as many minutes as possible doing my favorite hobby? And that's one of the things quilters can do is we can take our hand sewing. So that's nice. Another thing that I've been trying to work on is I have to figure out at one of my retreats in the fall, we have a mystery quilt. And what that, and for us, how the mystery quilt, it runs very simply, is that we, we have a pattern that we choose, we make up the quilt, and then when everybody gets there, you can decide if you want to make the quilt, and you can decide if you want to see it before you make it. And a lot of people do actually. They do just like the idea that the mystery they won't see it, they won't know what they're making until they get there. And so we don't want to stress anybody out. It's actually pretty fun, and a lot of people like it. But it's a challenge because what I'm learning is there's a lot of you have to think about a lot of different things when you're deciding on a mystery quilt. And if some of you have done your guild, you know what I'm talking about. You have to have something that is not not that is an easy intermediate level, because some of our quilters have been quilting longer than others. So you want something that everybody can actually accomplish, and you want it to be something that they can actually, for me, that they can accomplish in like a couple days, because our retreats are like 4 days, and we don't and they want to work on their own things too. So the mystery quilt is just one of the things they'll work on. And so I have to figure out that so that the level is not difficult. I have to actually also find one that it's easy to describe what you need to bring for fabric. Excuse me. So what I'm deciding to do this year is I'm going to choose a quilt that will need like a jelly roll or a layer cake, and then background fabric. Now we can usually find, I've got plenty of patterns in mind, but that's what I need to look for and get started making that sample. And so I made the mistake one year of choosing one from a series of books, which is the 3-Yard Quilt books. That was a great choice to be able to have something they can accomplish during the retreat, something they can accomplish at no matter what level they're at, because those are all very simple, fast, good quilt patterns. And you only needed 3 colors of fabric. So I thought, no brainer, this is going to be perfect. But what I found out was it was perfect for some people, but for others, I guess I underestimated the number of people who are collecting those books, and which is fabulous for that company, because they have written a lot of those books, and those books are so useful as you need a quick pattern. It's great to be able to have those as a reference. And so the people who are collecting the books, part of the mystery was you have to buy the pattern. That's really the only cost of the mystery quilt, is you buy the pattern. And of course, your own fabric that you bring. But what I found was some of them they bought the book, but they already had that book. And so it became a dilemma for them, because they already have the book, but they don't have it with them. And so then we had to figure out, okay, so how do we do that so you don't have to buy another book, but you can still work on this here at camp. So that was a tough one. We figured it out, but this year my goal is to not use something out of those books, which is too bad because they're great. for this, but instead I'm going to find a standalone pattern. I may still have the problem that they might have the pattern already. I think it'll be less likely that they will. So that's another thing that I've got to work on before November. So everything I have to work on several months ahead, so that I make sure I get things done in time. And that is the challenge of every quilt shop owner, is they are always working months ahead of the time we come in and buy things. And they're great at it, but it keeps them hopping. It keeps them very busy to plan things ahead ahead and get the things we want at the time we want them, at the season we want them. So that's very interesting. Um, fun to see how all the shops handle that. But for me, that's coming up. There's that's happening here. Now, I'm not a part of this, but it is very cool. And that is that Michigan, and probably your states too, I don't know how many states do it, but there is a statewide shop hop. And apparently, we're not the first state. We had our first one last year. Where's my end? Here we go. And it was so successful. I went to a few shops, but we had quilters who have told me they went to like 60 shops. I mean, I think there were like 80 shops that were on the list that were part of it. And holy cow. And apparently it was great for the quilt shops, which I all for, because we need to have quilt shops that are available when we want to go in and we want to feel the fabric. It's just super important for us to have that and have that community. And it's a struggle these days because there's lots of different ways for us to buy things, and we have to figure out how to adapt to all of that. This, I think, is an amazing way to help adapt to that position, to that development that quilt shops sometimes have. They feel the competition from the things that we buy online. So it is nice to remind them and to remind ourselves there's nothing like going to a quilt shop and being there and seeing things and meeting the owner and meeting the people who work there, because they're usually quilters just like us. They speak our language, we speak their language. So it's always it's like Christmas when you're going to a quilt shop. And if you go with friends, even better. So we had, as I'm sure the other states did too, people who are gathering their friends together, and a carload of them are going for a weekend or even a week and hitting huge sections of the state, even into our Upper Peninsula, which is from the bottom of Michigan to the top of Michigan. It's like 9 hours, I think, 8 hours to drive from one border all the way to the top, and then even more if you're driving all the way to the west where some of the shops. So there's some real strategy going into the figuring out what it is that how everyone's going to hit as many as they can. And then, of course, I think there's a contest by region. You guys know what I'm talking about. And a book that you get stamps. And they've done this. This organization has done I'm just impressed with all the thought they've put into making these a success. And they have this one I think is new this year for us. Is it a bear or a bunny? Every shop has one of these small plushy animals, stuffed animal, that they place somewhere in their shop. Now, I might have to admit it, I think, to the overall organization. I might have that wrong, but it's something like that. But I'm thinking, how clever. So what they want to make sure of, and the shop owners appreciate this, is when you have a contest like this, you're worried as a shop owner, worried that people are just going to come in, grab whatever the stamp is or the pattern is, and leave without buying anything. And what it becomes is a lot of work for staff without the reward. Now, one of the good things is that all of my friends, and I was listening because I was curious, and a lot of them said, "Oh, I buy something at every single shop. I buy something," and I'm thinking, "You've gone to 60 shops. You bought those stuff." So, but the little bear, I think, is kind of a way to, in a fun way, just have you spend a little more time there, have you look around a little bit more. And I don't know if the bear, is it like elf on a shelf? Is it hard to find, or I don't know. Um, but not everyone remembers to look for the little animal. So bear found it. I found it, and then everyone said, I forgot to look. So then we were in that shop was in the same town we were in. So they all went back down and found the bear. It's just great. And what I found out from talking to a lot of the quilt shops is they're doing very well, and the quilters are doing a really good job of supporting them. And they're crazy busy, which is really hard, but they seem to really um, always have a smile for you when you walk in to your favorite shop. So um, that is probably all I've got time to work on tonight. I hope you're having a good night. And if you're sewing, I hope you keep sewing. And hopefully one of these days I'm going to jump on. I'm trying to do this a little more often. It's super fun. I like it. And as I have things to show you and tell you, I'll be back. Otherwise, leave me some messages. And if you have questions for me, I'll answer it. But you have questions for, and let me know how you're doing in the heat. What are you working on these days? So until the next time, take care.